Well, we got a couple quick LessWrong posts.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But they're really fast.
Okay, yes. I was yeah.
One's one line. And the amazing virgin pregnancy is a... Imagine that this was, Mary covering up infidelity. And it's just a short little kind of like, he writes it in the style of like play dialogue. But it's really funny. And it's like, oh, this won't be a big deal. Blow over in a couple months.
It's a very fun fanfic.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
What's fun is I think the historicity of the word might be alma.
Which word?
I think in Greek, alma that's what like can be interpreted as like maiden, which can be young woman or like virgin.
Yeah. Virgin often meant just young woman because basically once you reach reproductive age, you weren't going to be a virgin anymore anyway back then.
Right.
So, they used to use the word maiden as a synonym.
Yeah. So I think that but I think the Greek was even more ambiguous, and that's where that word was translated from.
Right.
And so what's funny is that like the virgin pregnancy thing is like, so this conversation might have happened and it might have gone down like this, right?
I mean, I don't think there was ever something like this that actually happened in history. Later interpolation. Once Jesus was known to be divine, that's when the virgin thing became a thing.
I have heard often that historically, Mary's portrayed as like being in her 20s, and historically she probably would have been like 13.
Yeah. There's no way you're still a virgin in your 20s back in that time.
Well, Joseph was like older. Yeah. So, uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah. I just, it was funny. So that's that one. The other one was Asch's conformity experiment, and most people are probably familiar with hey, here's 3 lines on a graph, and tell me which one's longest. So I'm going to go down the row, and you get 7 wrong answers, and then it's your turn, and you're like, the wrong answer they all gave? And that turns out people did that like, what, a high percentage of the time?
So
37%?
It doesn't say how many times this was run, but 75% of the subjects in the experiments gave a conforming answer, so saying the wrong answer that everyone else said, at least once.
Right.
At least once makes me think this was a thing that was run multiple times with the same people.
Yeah. They did it multiple times with the same group of people going down, and then I think 5% of them said the wrong answer every time or something.
Okay. And it said a third of them conformed more than half the time.
Right.
But also, saying that 3/4 of them gave a conforming answer at least once means that 25% of people never did. They're just like, I don't care what you 7 stupid fuckers have to say, that one is the longer one.
Yeah. The Wikipedia page on this is pretty comprehensive too, so.
How to find the disagreeable person.
But here's the question that we always have to ask about social experiment posts.
Drumroll, please.
Yeah, in 2007, because this was pre-replication crisis. Does it replicate?
Yeah, that's why I went to Wikipedia rather than looked at this post.
Okay.
Because it doesn't say it replicates, but it does, like, it doesn't come right out and say this survived the replication crisis. But this has been repeated a bunch, and it's, structures for other interpretations of studies and stuff, so it seems sound.
The first thing I did was Google, did it replicate?
Smart.
And I have linked the first 5. Yes, the first 5 links I got from that. The first one was, yes, it did replicate, but it's a video, but it was also made for a news show on TV, so they may have massaged it, yeah. The second one was, yes, it does replicate, but it replicates less often for men. And this is actually something that was brought up later in the post, so I put all this before I kept reading the post. Third one was, no, it did not replicate. This one, only 1 out of 360 something times did someone conform. But, this was also done entirely on STEM undergrads, which, as we will read later in the post, that was actually a predictor of being less likely to conform. Next one, did it replicate? Yes, if women, no, if men. Also mentioned later on, apparently men are more likely to be disagreeable. Finally, does it replicate? Yes, but more often if you're younger, more often if you're less socially prominent in the group, and more often if the people saying yes are your friends rather than strangers.
Which all stands to reason.
It does. I agree. Intuitively it does, but Eliezer, the rest of the post is him saying, why does this stand to reason? And I guess that's why we go on to the rest of the post. The main thing he says...
And if you have good friends, if you cultivate a good atmosphere,
yeah.
You will be the one who's fine saying, I disagree with all of you, and you won't be worried about them judging your harshly.
That was an earlier piece of advice. Just, if you don't know, go with what your friends are saying.
Yeah.
So...
just want to make sure, I'm shilling for the rationalist community.
Yes.
If I disagree with everybody at the meetup, they'll be like, oh, that's curious. Why?
Yeah.
Not, you fucking moron. Yeah.
At the last meetup, there was some discussion of a touchy political nature, and there was nobody being like, oh, you fucking idiot or anything. It was just like, that's interesting. Why do you think that? And there was a little bit of talk about that.
I missed the meetup. I had a rather severe headache. Wait, I don't know. I had a stomachache and a headache Thursday and Wednesday last week.
Oh man, I was sick too last week. I feel like a lot of people were.
Womp.
But it was like a weird. Like I tested for COVID. It wasn't that. Some friends did the same.
Oof.
Some coworkers were out. It was like just a weird week.
I'm glad it passed. Yeah.
But yeah, Eliezer points out the Almond Agreement theorem that other people's beliefs are actually often legitimate evidence. What are the odds that in a group of 7-8 people, if they all agree on a different answer than what you came up with, you're the one who's right and they're not? It should be on normally some evidence that maybe you're looking at something wrong. Maybe something's happened that they are right and I'm wrong.
You misunderstood the question. They all understood it properly. Like
the
fact that everyone else is saying something is evidence that you're wrong.
Yes, yeah, exactly. If everybody else is jumping off the bridge, maybe they know a train is about to run over this bridge.
Yeah, it's the absurd extension of that though is like most of the world's religious, right?
Right.
So there is a limit to this, but it is evidence.
Yeah.
So anyway,
this is something we do at my job. Is everything? There's a lot of calculations, obviously, and then we have a system where everyone needs to verify everything at least once, but if there's like a conflict, then they just end up pulling more people. You're like, hey, we need more eyeballs on this.
Cool.
And it is sort of, maybe it's kind of the theory of prediction markets, the wisdom of crowds and whatever. Yeah, but I mean, we are much more likely to find where the problem in the calculation is the more people like come and try to do it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, even just simple computer problems. Half the time, you call someone over and they're like, "Oh, you just didn't click that button there."
Have you turned it on and turned it off again?
Yeah, right.
And half of the remaining half of the time, it's like by the time you're finished explaining the question that you have to them, you've already figured it out.
Yeah.
Which is why you should talk to your rubber duck first. Yeah.
So much of the rest of the post is Eliezer saying, but this can't be the case, because one of the things he points out is that conformity increases strongly with up to 3 Confederates, but doesn't increase further up to 10 to 15 Confederates. If people are conforming rationally, then the opinion of 15 should be substantially stronger evidence than the opinion of 3.
We're conforming rationally to our monkey brain, Our monkey brain can't do math past 3 or 4, maybe,
Maybe.
It's the Dunbar's number of Confederates.
He also says that adding a single dissenter, just one other person who gives the actual correct answer, or even a different incorrect answer that splits from the main group's incorrect answer, reduces conformity very sharply, down to just 5 to 10% of subjects, which shouldn't make that huge of a difference if, you're doing the whole sampling of people idea.
But having one person, say, well, hold up a minute. You're like, oh, good. I can also now, say I can comfortably voice my thought on it.
But again, it's a psychological thing rather than a Bayesian rationalist thing.
Yeah, no, it's all monkey brain. Yeah.
The funnest part was when he said that when they were interviewed, the people in the one dissenter condition did not think their nonconformity had been influenced or enabled by the dissenter. And yet, statistics show.
Yeah, so again, it's, if this was a group of whatever, like reflective rationalist thinking about this as an experiment kind of person, you'd be like, no, of course. Like if someone asked me at work, well, Stephen, why did you feel emboldened to disagree with the CTO here? I'd be like, well, because, he suggested this might be wrong first, and I just weighed in that I agreed with him, I was never going to jump in and say I disagree with him because I'm not informed enough, but if I was leaning that way and then this smart guy agrees with me, I'm like, oh good, I agree with him,
This is probably why dictators and other evil people are so quick to crack down immediately on the very first dissenter. There has to be a strong precedence of nobody saying anything, so everybody thinks there's unanimity. As soon as one person dissents, then other people start thinking saying what they actually think.
Can't
That's
have that.
absolutely why, yeah.
Yeah. Another interesting outgrowth of all this is that when the single dissenter suddenly switched back to conforming to the group, the subject's conformity rates went back up to just as high as in the no dissenter condition. So apparently being the first dissenter is valuable and costly social service, but you've got to keep it up.
Yeah. To this, go on.
Oh, I was going to say this kind of, I don't know. I think that there is a lot of people really complain about edgelords, contrarians, people who are, being contrary just to be contrary. And sure, they can be annoying sometimes, but also that trolling sometimes may have a valuable service in allowing other people to be emboldened to actually say things.
Yeah, it also kind of depends on if you're doing it in good faith, too. If you're just dissenting to be an edgelord, then you're probably not actually providing that valuable of a service. You're just wasting people's time. To that I was going to say, with the example of the work meeting earlier, that it really pays if you're a business or probably even just a group of friends or a family to create an environment where people don't feel like they're going to be hammered down by the dictator when they come forth also. Because I, after seeing that, felt safe enough to go to my manager and complain about a thing at work, and I knew that I wasn't just going to be treated like the problem they were going to be, even though I was only there 3 weeks, oh, your opinion's valuable, we'll look into that. Sure enough, yeah.
That's awesome. I kind of want to make some kind of point about censorship regimes and social media, but then I'm like, fuck it.
Just insert any Asch says any Asch thing.
Yeah, there we go.
We'll save that for another time, though, because that's a conversation worth having.
Yeah.
Anyway, this last one was fun. When subjects can respond in a way that will not be seen by the group, conformity also drops, which argues against the Amen interpretation. I like the work example. That's when we have our weekly, I think every week we do a half-hour meeting on the company. How's everything doing? There's 40 people who work there, so it's not too much. While they're doing the kind of quick presentation of how things are going, there's a little applet inside Microsoft's Teams, which we use because we're not cool. We should be using Slack. But you can ask questions anonymously. And every meeting, she's the head of HR, but her title in the email says I think head of people relations or something, and I like that more because it sounds
people-ear.
Yeah, but anyway, so she reminds us every call hey, if you have any questions, you can ask them anonymously using this, and I think that's really cool because we get questions most every week. Cool. And what's this actually mean? Can you explain this? What so stuff like that, where you don't want to be the person who raise your hand when the CEO's talking and be like, can you explain what you mean there? That makes no fucking sense. But you can quietly and politely ask that anonymously, which is fun.
Yeah.
So
that is really cool. Is there a way to second things? Because if just one person asks, maybe you're going to skip over it for time, but if somebody else is seconding it, then you're okay, I really needed to be clearer on this one point.
You could totally write in and just say, yeah, what they said, and it just says anonymous, as the person who sent it again. So in theory, you could do that to yourself. You could boost your own message, right? So if no one's getting to it, yeah. But why not?
All right. Well, the reason that all this talk about Asch's conformity experiment is done is because he is setting up things for the next few posts. The next 2 posts we're going to be reading for next episode are On Expressing Your Concerns and Lonely Dissent.
Fun on a bun.